All right, so getting back, we do support desktop originator with Fannie Mae as a part of AUS. We are working on with Freddie Mac right now to support LP. So LP should be available early January. So we are kind of working on getting our platform certified. So agencies have a process by which they certify a specific platform. So that's happening as we speak. But our hope is we release Freddie Mac LPA early next year, like in January timeframe. And then after that we'll look into one click AUS and actually creating easy findings from the findings that come back from the agency. So that's happening all Q1 next year. So again, welcome. I believe we are a few minutes into this, and again, this session is Q&A based. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A tab or ask them in the chat window. We'll take them as they come in the session, and feel free to bring up any topics that you have interest in, you're concerned about, you would like to know more. The whole idea of Arrive University is we want to make this a collaborative session where we share best practices, how to do things, how specific areas of Arrive work. So this is a recurring meeting every Tuesday, 10 o'clock Pacific. So if there is an area of interest you would like us to go through, let us know. We'll be happy to cover that in one of the upcoming sessions. So with this, maybe Cameron, Scott, you would like to take over and start the session. Is that correct? I'm going to stop sharing and have you guys.
Yep. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, I should be seeing my loan pipeline here and ARIVE.Next. I do just kind of, hi everyone, my name is Camron Wall, head of product here. Glad to have you guys on. As Harish mentioned, we do want this to be fairly interactive, and given that there is about 15 of you out there, I think we can, if you have a question, use that little, raise hand feature, and we can call on you. You can either ask your question verbally, or if you want to use the little Q&A box and type your questions out there, that works as well. So as I'm going through this, if you see something you have a question on, or if you see something else that you have a question about that may or may not be related to what we're going over, feel free to just post those questions and we'll get to them in this session. All right, so first up, I do want to kind of just go over some of the basic functionality around AUS, how do you get it set up initially so you can actually utilize it. Some basic troubleshooting techniques that you may need to utilize. Because the running DO is not a perfect world by any stretch of the imagination, and just what those results look like and where to actually do it within a loan file. So first thing you actually need to do as a loan officer or any other user is go to your user profile settings, and then over here on the left there are various options. You want to click on credentials. This is where generally you'll find, the spot to input your credentials that work with some other software that we can integrate directly to. So credit agency credentials, you'll be able to go here. I can select from this list because I'm working from UAT, so these are all test environments. But you'll see in production, and when you guys are looking at this interface, you'll see the full list of credit vendors that we have in here. But then also you'll have AUS DO as well here, and you'll be able to go here, enter your credentials. So I can go in here, and we do actually ping the Fannie Mae system. So if you, just to validate your credentials up front, so if you go in here and you see this user not authenticated, that means your username and password combination was entered incorrectly, or probably the most common thing that happens, and this is something that Fannie Mae and I'm sure LPA does as well, is on I believe it's a quarterly basis, they force you to reset your credentials for logging into Fannie's website. So when that happens, that change occurs on Fannie's side, but there's no way for ARIVE.Next to know when that happens. So you need to basically take that updated credentials and then re-enter it into the settings here. so that you can utilize, the seamless AUS within ARIVE. So most of the time, what you'll experience is one day you'll be running AUS just fine, and then the next day, whenever your credentials change in DO, you'll go in and try and run AUS on a file, and then you'll get a not authenticated message. We've actually worked on enhancing and trying to convey that messaging to you guys on a loan basis. So you should see an enhancement for that by the end of this week. Actually, we got a big release coming up, so keep an eye out for details on that as well. But once you've got your AUS entered here, you're basically good to go. You also need to have your credit credentials set up at the same time, because the AUS interface with Fannie, and presumably when we get Freddie in there, they will pull out your credentials and rerun credit on their side as well. But once you're ready and good to go, you can run AUS and run credit on loan files that you guys have in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and import a Fannie Mae file. And if you haven't seen it, this is how you actually import a Fannie Mae file. So you can go here, start a new loan by importing a Fannie Mae 3.2 file. You can also get to that page by clicking on Add New Loan and then just clicking on this little tab here to switch back and forth between just the manual creation and then importing from a Fannie Mae file. I'm going to go here, select a Fannie Mae file there, and you want to make sure that your Fannie Mae files end in .fnm, because I believe that's all the system currently looks for. It doesn't look for, I know sometimes some systems do create text files, but you want to make sure that yours are .fnm. And once you create this, I'm going to have to fill out a few more little details, but actually, let's go ahead and jump in here. So I've got the loan created. To be able to run AUS, you need a few items beforehand. So if I just go straight to run AUS, I'll see a few pieces of information that are saying, hey, you're missing X, you're missing Y. I don't have product and pricing information. There's no credit report and file. This is kind of intended to let you know, if we didn't have this, the Fannie Mae would kick back errors and say, hey, that doesn't work. You got this error here. So I'm going to go back in here, indicate that I got a credit consent. So there's little check boxes over here for credit consent and e-consent. The running credit needs both of these set up. And then you also need the date of birth, the social, and then their current housing residence. So once I go here, I'm going to order credit. Something that you can do from the credit page, actually, on just a little bit of a tangent. If you've got multiple credit vendors set up, you can actually switch between those credit vendors on a loan by loan basis. But I'm going to use this one because I know it will succeed with an AUS test. And then when that comes back in, I can then run products and pricing utilizing that FICO that comes back from the liabilities page. So let me go over here, make sure that the liabilities come in. This one actually came from the 3.2 import. So if all these, let me see, if these account numbers match an item on the credit report, it should merge. So we do have a merging functionality based on, so we can update existing liabilities that may be on the file. See, so we had one that was updated because previously we had 4, and now one of them got merged, which is good. So I can see that my loan FICO 771, go ahead and run. I'll pick a lender. I believe I need to select the county. Let me just change my one take Hollow Road. That works. Save this. Press the 6. Now the reason we have to select a product and price them because Fannie Mae actually requires a rate and interest. So we just send you down this path because that's probably the most efficient way to go about doing this. instead of finding where each of the data points are. But once I've got this set up, I can go to run AUS. I see that I'm still missing some demographic information. I can go here, internet, and then just kind of do some of the default items here. Save. Demographics, Mary as well. Save. All right, make sure the fees are good. Save next. And now I can go to run AUS and I see this different interface now that all those required data points that Fannie Mae requires are set. So there are various options here. So if by default, obviously you'll need to create a new case file. And there's two different submission types, one for preliminary and one for interim. By default, you want to use the preliminary, which is available on non-government loans, but for FHA and VA, you need to use interim. And that's because the FHA total scorecard is ultimately pinged by Fannie Mae to actually get those AUS results back. So it needs a bit more information. But once I hit submit, I just wait for the results to come back. It's sending over all that credit information. DO is running all of the data against their guidelines, and it's going to kick back a result here. So I see that it did get approved eligible. And then I can take a look at the report of the findings here. So here's that PDF that gets sent back as part of that AUS findings. And I can go through this. If there was some sort of error message or something came back erroneous, I could go here, view what those messages are, and get those resolved right away. Now, if you do run into any issues, let me see if I can potentially simulate what an issue potentially may be. I think we resolved a lot of the ones that generally occur. Let's see, for example, it happens a lot when there's just really long employer names. So like the first president of the company that is in, some real long name has thrown errors in the past. But I believe we've already fixed something like that. So I don't think this is actually going to generate an error, but let's see if we can get one to generate. So I'm going to generate a new case. And for the most part, I don't believe this really has any effect. It really matters from a lender's perspective once you actually do a full findings. Yep, nothing came back. But if you do ever need to kind of see what potentially went wrong, you can go here to this DO case submitted, and there's like a little log activity of what happened. Sometimes you can look at this and see there's might be like a little error message down here. It's a little difficult to read through. There is pretty technical jargon in here. But, if you do want to try and problem solve on your own, you can come here and see potentially what the issue might be, because usually it says, oh, you're missing a data point for this spot. So one thing that we want to do is continue to improve this so that we catch a lot of those data point requirements up front, so that you guys can make sure that the loan is in a good spot to actually submit it in the first place. So you don't have to read through this mess here. But, if you ever do run into an issue and you're like, you know what, I don't want to go through this, all you really need to do is go down here and submit a ticket. So you can just submit a ticket through this mechanism. And then the support team should have enough information to go off of when you do it through our little help icon down here in the bottom left.
Hey, Cam, I think I want to just to expand on what you said. So typically errors will happen, like AUS is kind of one of the very important feature. And, username password we talked about, like it works today, it doesn't work tomorrow. So we're improving the error message. That's probably because your password expired. Other is if you're importing 3.2 files from other systems, and let's say they have some Latin characters or different types of characters. So that's another area. If your AUS is failing, it might be because you got this file from a different platform. If you do the loan inside ARIVE, including the point of sale, the probability of error goes down significantly. But typically, we have seen you have imported 3-2 files from other platforms, and you're trying to run AUS. That will lead to different types of errors and issues. So we are trying to cache them as much as we can, or your password goes away, so or expires. These are the two primary, I guess, areas to watch out for as you use this feature. So.
Yep, and I do see some comments in the chat asking for a little bit of clarity. That definitely is a good idea. And for your guys' information, we do default the appropriate settings based off the loan scenario. So if I switch this to an FHA, the AUS page automatically selects interim for you. Yeah, I don't have a FHA product on the file, which is fine. But I can go back here and interim's automatically selected, and then I can go through here and select sponsoring lender. But for you guys, you do need to also provide the sponsoring originator EIN and then the lender's FHA ID. So you do want to make sure that you get that information from the lenders. Or you should have this one, but you'll want to make sure that you have this FHA ID from the lenders. I don't know any test ones off the top of my head, so I cannot actually test this one here. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially AUS in a nutshell. And just to kind of touch on LPA and what the plans are there, we are sort of in a sort of a purgatory spot where Freddie Mac does not actually support importing a 3.2 file. They discontinued that a while ago, apparently. So we're waiting for the new ERLA updates to come out and to be able to utilize that data structure before we can actually submit. So our goal is to have LPA available by the January 1st. And then you can expect, shortly thereafter, one-click AUS stuff and things like that. But again, this was AUS.
Cameron, I wanted to jump in real quick. One thing that wasn't quite covered in depth that I think is kind of a common thing is whenever you do get a warning or an error back from DO, we'll try to make that really clear at the bottom. So in that status, if you hover over the little eye icon, will actually indicate like the main message that has come back. So if you do get some kind of warning or error, you should check there first. And commonly, what will be returned is something that says something similar to underwriting checklist error. So if you go back into that log, there will actually be a section for the underwriting checklist that you can review in that case. So you can actually just expand out the DO case submitted log and then Control F for checklist, and that's usually I'd say about 8 times out of 10 where you can kind of find the immediate error message that has come back. So kind of like a tip or an FAQ that'll come up.
Yeah, I think, okay, so this is a purchase. One thing we can actually do is this. If I do that and then go here, go to change this back to conventional, I think we can actually simulate this one. I believe this is an error state because Fannie Mae does not allow paying off liabilities with loan proceeds on purchase transactions. So this should result in a unsuccessful completion. So let's see what happens here. Question from Kent, where can I go and view previous trainings? You'll be able to go to the support center. So let me pull this up. So we do have previous webinars here. So you can go to, there's a category for ARIVE.Next University, and you can go in here and see previous ones. We should, by the end of the day, should have the past 2 weeks of the recordings that we previously had. Nope, it didn't. Okay, it didn't come back, but that's fine. But yes, thank you, Scott, for sounding on that.
So another minor thing, I guess, Cam, is like you see, we do support creating new cases, or you can actually reuse the case and run the findings again. So that's again totally up to how how you operate. There are some limits on Fannie Mae. You cannot run unlimited number of cases. So just be, cautious about that. So, and the case ID that we get back will be kind of sent to the lender once you send them the loan. So, and this is kind of broker AUS, like desktop originator. This is not the lender AUS we are running here, which you will anyway run in the lender system. So the case ID you see here is the actual Fannie Mae's case ID, which is coming back from Fannie Mae for the preliminary or interim findings. We do not support finalized findings because that will lock the lender and defeat the purpose of you guys being the broker. So prelim and interim are supported, and then the case ID is the actual case ID coming from Fannie Mae as a part of this AUS run. So I think that should be pretty much it. Yeah, these findings will change if you move your DTI up and down and some parameters. So you will see these things kind of change as you and again, if you have any questions or comments, let us know. We are happy to further kind of improve it as we move along. So.
All right, let's move on to our next major topic here, and that is call reports. So obviously those quarterly things that you're always scrambled to try and get in by the due date. What ARIVE provides is a way for you to export the information that is available in the system. So through a couple different mechanisms, you can either export it as a spreadsheet, or you can actually export it as an XML file, which you can upload directly to the Animalist website. So where you can go to find the call report section is right here up in reports, and right here for call reports. So once you click on this, you'll be given the option to select the year and the quarter. This should default automatically based off of your, based off the current date. And then there's also options down here to export the reports based off of whichever states your company is licensed in. So to utilize this feature, you really want to make sure that your state licenses are entered properly into the system. So for me, I can go here. I'm a company admin. I'll go into company settings. Now I'll go into licenses, and I see that I've got Arizona and California. I also have one for Texas. I'll see that Texas is now an option in the call report here. So that is step one. Make sure your licenses are entered there in the system and you're good to go there, so you can actually do the call reports for each of those states. Once I actually do, I can go here to continue. And then what this does is aggregates all the information that's available within the system, and aggregates it so that it correlates with each of those little cells within the call report. So a lot of this data is based off of dates that you and your users enter on loan files. So let me see if I've got anything in California here. Hopefully I do. Yep, I've got some applications in process here. My total pipeline is right around 2 loans for that. Revenue, MLO data. I've got the MLOs that are active in the system currently. I don't believe I have any in Texas. But all of this data, you can go here, you can click on these different links to actually see which loans are being included in these different buckets for the application data and closed loan data, etc. And a lot of this, again, is driven off of those files based off of the dates that you have on the system. So let's take a look at this file here. So I've got this one, and let's go and see how we can make sure that the dates, like maybe this file is actually closed. So let me search by loan ID. There's 2. And it is probably a little bit older, so I can find this one here, submitted to lender. Now let me actually go over the dates that are actually utilized for whether or not something is included in a given quarter. So the first one is the application date. This dictates and tells the system, okay, this is an application that I have. I want to include this in, the in processing at least. So this number basically gets looked at to determine whether a loan is in processing or not, with respect to that call report section. And then the other two dates that are the three rather, are the loan funded and the loan closed date. So to indicate that a loan is closed, both of these dates have to be entered, and then the loan funded date will tell the system which quarter to put the file in. So if I go here and I let's do September 24th, go ahead and update the status, it's fine. And then I'll do September 24th here as well. Okay. Oh, it's closed. And that will tell the system to include this in that closed loan section. The final date would be any loans that are adverse. So there's a few of those buckets in that in processing page where there are different types of adverse files, right? So and that adverse date will ultimately say, okay, this is when an adverse decision was made. So those are the main dates that you want to pay attention to. The application date for telling when the application was collected. The loan funded and loan closed date to indicate when the loan has been completed, and then the adverse date to indicate when the loan has actually been, when a credit decision has been made, ultimately denying credit to the borrower. Now, once I have that set, I should then see that update for my closed loan data in California. There you go. And there it is. So I updated that to, be closed within the quarter. And I'm seeing that the loan amount here. And then also I'm seeing that, Danny Demo was the loan officer for that file over there. And each of these data points here are available for you. You can edit these in case there is some sort of aggregates. Like there's some data that we just don't have. Like if you guys do any reverse mortgages, for instance, we don't natively have support for the calculations associated with reverse mortgages. But you will be able to go in here and input the data for those types of files. Everything else, though, we calculate based off the data that are on the file. So you can see that that one that I just edited was a conventional loan, and it's being aggregated here. But once you get to a spot where you're ready to export this, you can do a couple different options. So you can export the data, as I mentioned before, as a spreadsheet. And let's take a look at what this looks like. This is essentially just mimicking what the NMLS provides as a tool for you to utilize. So I don't have any loans in here for Arizona, but if I go to the California tab, I can take a look at this and go through the various data that's available in there as well. And then we also provide a raw export or a raw list of the loans that are included in the report, and then all the associated data that would be used to calculate, how to bucket various information there. So this is available to you. And then the other and probably most streamlined way is to generate this XML, which you can take and just dump directly into the NMLS Call Report website. So you can go here. This is, fairly technical, but basically it outlines all that information so that you can just quickly drag and drop an XML file into the Call Report website.
So let me add something to call reports, Camron. This is Harish. So a few things to note. Like Camron went through some dates. So ARIVE.Next at this point tends to be more conservative. So in the sense, only when you have applications, they're kind of factored in from a call reporting, and we show that in the last tab. What we showed, like what loans are being picked up from a call reporting perspective. We are trying to see how we can add more loans. For example, if you pull credit on the application and that loan was not denied, but you did not collect 6 bits of information. So we are trying to see if we can give you that data again. So we highly encourage you work with your compliance attorney or compliance counsel before you send this over to NMLS, because every state has their own requirements, how they view from an application perspective, what constitutes an application. So what we are trying to do is like look at the specifications and come up with a little conservative estimate. But if you would like to include other data points, we do let you export everything from the platform, and we show you what loans are coming in as a part of call report. So before you submit this data to NMLS, definitely make sure you review it for your comfort. And going forward, I guess this specific feature also will be enhancing so that you have more options of including other types of data points if you would like as an export. So that is something we are actively looking into this year.
Yep.
But other than that, we try to make it easy. The formatting is exactly how NMLS toolkit does. So you can export individual states, all states, kind of play around with this, manipulate this data inline, then export. We give you all 4 sections: app data, closed loan data, revenue data, and MLO data. So we're trying to make your life kind of simpler and easy and mimic what you have to submit to the regulatory agency. So
Thank you,
Yep.
Harish, for adding to that. So just to kind of go back over one more time to nail the coffin. The dates that are most important and that you want to make sure that you're updating on the loan file are in here in the date tracking page. You want to make sure that you're updating the application date. This does get, as Harish mentioned, this does get set once you hit RESPA 6. Otherwise, though, if you hit this application date a little sooner before that, you want to make sure that you enter that here. And then the loan funded and loan closed date need to be entered to indicate that a loan is closed. Alternatively, you also have the adverse date. Let me actually demonstrate what adversing a file would look like. Let's see, let's close this. Can go to, this is Pennsylvania. I will change this to California so we can actually see what that looks like. Let's do Sunflower Street Avenue. I don't know any off the top of my head. That's fine. California. Orange. All right, I'll save this, and then I'm going to adverse this file. Adverse date. Let's put it in September. Just September 24th. App denied, and I can select the denial reasons here. This is basically kind of aligns with the adverse letter, bankruptcy, credit report, delivery date. Go, and now the adverse date was set. And then when I go back into call reports, California, I should have maybe I was outside the bounds of the quarter, but no. I should be seeing something here. Oh, well, but yeah, I mean, like once you guys input the adverse date from that perspective, you'll see loans start to populate in here. Maybe I didn't actually, oh, that's probably what it was. Adverse. I don't think I had the application date. Oh yeah, it was after. So it was a weird scenario. So application date was the 27th, but the adverse date was before that. So let me change this to before August 31st. All right. Call report. There we go. There it is. Application denied right there. So it gets bucketed into the appropriate spot. And there is an option for each one of these. Approved, but not accepted, denied, withdrawn, each of these, there's an option available on that little interface I went through for addressing the file.
So there's a question regarding, merging call reports from spreadsheets. So one of the things we are kind of looking into is you can bring your old loans into ARIVE, either through a 3.2 import, or we are looking at giving you tools to import your past data. So that way you can use them for your call reports. But this section will not merge, but if you bring in your old files into the platform, they will get picked up if the dates are set correctly from a call reporting perspective. So this could be one way you can utilize the platform, and some of the users are doing it. They've brought their old loans in, and now they can use this to generate their call reports in a more user kind of friendly manner. So
yep. And then one other option that you have, and I think probably this is more so what you were trying to get at there, Kent, is if you go to contacts, there is an option for you to be able to import like sort of a contacts list of your borrowers. So you can do that with this little mechanism here. So if I export this, that gives me the columns necessary for me to import. So if I want to take those out of Calyx or something and I want to bring in those borrower contacts, you can do that, making sure that you have each of these columns available to you. And then let me just do sort of a test. Do that. Well, I won't test out. That's let's type out. But if you export your data from Calyx or something and you want to at least get your borrower's information into the system, you can do that, making sure that you kind of map these in a one-to-one fashion, and then keeping the column name here, and then you can go back here and import that CSV that you created from whichever database that you're using, and then you can bring those contacts into the ARIVE system.
Yep, I think there was one. So thanks, Cam. I think this will bring your contacts, call report. You do need to have deals and loans, but yes, this is one way you can bring data back into ARIVE. There was one more question which was answered. Yeah, so that was good, Scott. So I think how do we exclude a loan from call report? It is important. So if you archive out a file, that's how we do it right now. So if you archive files, maybe Camron show that.
So like right here, I've got, let me see, let me take a look at homeowner. Oh, I switched it to borrow. Borrow name, homeowner, right here. So see, I potentially have a duplicated file here between Mary and John. Obviously, this can occur. People, you run into do and import things, which is, unintentional. But what you can do is come here, do these little three dots over here, and utilize this archive functionality. And then you can just provide, this is a duplicate. And then archive. And then that tells the system to not include those loans in any sort of reporting features that we have in the system in the call report and in the pipeline reports functionality that we do offer as well. And if you ever accidentally archive a loan, we do still store those loans in a separate sort of pipeline. So you can search by archive files here, and you can see all files that have been archived within this list. I think at that point, though, I do kind of like if anybody has any. Okay, well, would you help me fix the problem? Live phone. Donnie, we can definitely reach out and help you out with that. I won't do it here during this session, but we can definitely reach out and help you out there. So that's Donnie Thomason.
Maybe Scott, you can reach out. Maybe if after this session, we can definitely help you out. Another small point, Cam, just to. So if you believe something is missing, we recently launched pipeline exports that will give you all data points ARIVE captures. That is a part of report. That is not in a call reports format, but that is still available. So with pipeline exports, we'll give you access to all known data points that you might have in ARIVE. You might want to analyze offline. So it is still available on the reports. And if you go on the reports, yeah. So this is again, you can play around with this. You see, we try to give you everything that we have, and if you export the report, it will have all the data points that we have captured. We are further improving this, giving some date filters and others. So this is one another export feature available that will give you all the data that is in Arrive as of now, which you can analyze offline.
All right. I mean, with that is kind of the gist of the main things that we did want to cover today. I do want to open it up for a little live Q&A. If anybody has any questions, any kind of separate functionality that they want to see or get a little bit more insight to, or maybe how a certain feature is supposed to work. I do want to kind of open it up though for the time being.
So we don't have any questions, Cam. So next webinar will be a big one. We are having a major release go out end of this week. So we plan to kind of use this time next week to go over all the features. I'll be sending out that announcement by tomorrow. But next week's webinar will be covering the 1.45 release, which is planned to go live by end of this week. So that's our thoughts. And again, if you have ideas or thoughts or areas you would like to cover as a part of these educational sessions or best practices, definitely let us know by sending an email to feedback@arrive.com or support@arrive.com. So we would like to work with the community to figure out what areas are important to you. We will be covering some of these areas in coming weeks on our own, but if there is an area which is more valuable to the community, just let us know through Facebook, emails, whatever you guys feel. So I think we do have one question.
Can you track loan revenue in Arrive for call reports?
So maybe I'll start with this, Mark. This is a great question. So we do track compensation and fees you may be charging. So the sum of that becomes loan revenue. Maybe we'll show you that in a loan which is a little farther around. So we are still trying to improve this. So we use the term loan revenue. Right now we use the term compensation, whether it is lender paid, borrower paid, and we also let you designate the fees which are charged by the broker outside your compensation. So that sums it up, but we're going to kind of make it more explicit in coming weeks. Like this is the loan revenue. So Cam, you have any loan which is a little farther along, or you can set a status?
Yeah, I do. I was just in the wrong. This is being ordered by last updated. Oh, repost. Loans.
Yep, submit to underwriting should be good. Or close is good, yeah.
Yep. So we have the compensation amount here.
So this is the comp, whether it is borrower paid or lender paid. And then on the fees, that's also important, Camron. We should probably show them. Like on the fees, you can tag specific fees which you are charging, which are broker fees. So maybe when you go to if you can show them the fee config, we should have a flag which says these fees are broker fees. So with that, we kind of figure out what's the loan revenue, if that makes sense. And we're going to improve this nomenclature so there is more clarity on what's going on from a output perspective. So there is this little flag over here. So if you check this up, the system will think this is a fee that you are collecting. So that kind of goes as a part of your income, or revenue. So I hope that clarifies that. That was a great question, Mark. Thank you for asking that. So we have another one from Kirk. Maybe Scott or Camron, you can take this up.
Yep. So there is this one's from Kirk. It says, I requested an option to have client needs list just for pre-qual clients. Is this possible? I don't want a client to feel like they have to upload so many documents when they're just starting out the relationship. I emailed support a couple days ago. Any update on this request? So for pre-qual clients, something that you can potentially do is one, kind of identify, what ultimately is that differentiator between pre-qual and, somebody actually need to start collecting documents from. So an option that you can do here is if you go into POS config, you can disable the automatic generation of those needs just up front. So you can turn this off completely. That way they don't see a big list of items that they need to upload it in case, some other solution doesn't really, unless what we're kind of going over here doesn't really provide. So you always have the option to turn that automatic generation off. Now from the client needs rules perspective, I'm trying to think what we would potentially, and I don't know why this got re-updated. It might just be this environment here. I think it was fine. And
so as he does that, Kip, you bring up a great point. We have been thinking of, building skinny apps, and for those skinny apps, we don't ask all this information, and a lot of information is rule-based. So only if those rule conditions are met, we're going to ask for the documents, if you will. So we will not ask for documents, like blanket. So you can set them up if he gets to the config. So I think this looks much better, Cam. But I think we will be improving the experience where how do you configure the need? So we only ask for documents when they are requested, and you are trying to do a pre-call or a pre-approval, and you don't. So it is available. It's a little more work, but yeah, we're going to kind of make this more user experience. Like, how do you ask for as little documents as you might wish as a part of a pre-call process? So I mean, you can configure this here, but set higher loan amounts, and that way we don't ask certain documents if the conditions don't match. But it's a little more work on your guys' part. We appreciate that. So.
Sure. For this one, I'd have to sit down and think through. Obviously, like I see you mentioned, just add a pre-qual option, right? But then you need some sort of indicator in the system to be able to do that, right? So like, if it's just a matter of, you have for example, on purchase scenarios, we have this, are they pre-approved? We can add something for purchases, right? But you're also potentially pre-qualifying refinances as well. So it is a little bit more involved than just adding one thing to some separate spot in the configuration. But really the only option that I can kind of really see right now working for you for that, at least today, is to utilize that, buying, either switching it off altogether or going through and adding in. No, I would just recommend turning it off for the time being.
So just as a heads up, both to Camron and Kirk, I actually added that feedback to our feature case for the needs redesign. So it's definitely something that will be brainstormed further down the line. It's going to be, in a future update, essentially.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. And Kirk, these are great points.
Property TBD would work for this, Kurt. And the option that you'd want for that within your client needs rules is this option down here for buying stage. So if they're shopping around still, you can do that. And whenever that is sent over, it would only trigger if you're like under contract or like the address is actually known. So you can utilize this potentially as sort of a stopgap for the time being. Going through and adding in TBD for the ones that you actually want to do to trigger right away. And then ones that you want to wait until later, you can add in the option for, right, like this one here where the address is known. I'm triggering a purchase agreement for that. But if to actually trigger these later on, you need to go in and click generate needs list. And definitely let us know whether that works for you, because obviously we want to provide a more explicit way to do that. But as Harish mentioned, we are kind of working to provide a sort of a more explicit, streamlined application collection process, and trying to just really improve that use case overall.
So Cameron, we have another question regarding fees. Maybe it's very relevant. Samuel, it is not off topic. So we we work on fees. We got a lot of kind of feedback on fees flickering.
Yep.
So all that is getting fixed, but this is very much important area. So maybe.
Yeah. So I see one question where it's like, how do you customize the fee name? To be able to do that, you have to customize it within the closing cost settings directly. So if I'm adding a new fee, for example, let's just do inspection, see what comes up. 2 or 3K inspection fee. So you need to first select the base fee type. And then from a display perspective, there's additional display name here. And then I can do, Reno inspection, inspect fee. Something like this. And I can add the value, $22, and hit save. And then when I actually go into the loan and add that fee here, it should come up with that, whatever that custom option was.
Review fees, Cam, a little bit of. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. And then I forget what section I added that to though. Oh no, what section did I add that fee to? Was it other? Oh gosh, apologies, I didn't even note.
But yes, we will be improving the fee experience. That's one of the most asked kind of feature. Like how can we, I mean, we show it more like a CD model right now. Closing disclosure will go more on the LE model, which is more common on the broker side. So that's something we are kind of looking to enhance. As we are going to support disclosures early next year. Yeah, so fee rework is definitely one of the major kind of area and work in progress. So
Why isn't that coming up?
I missed it, Cam. Did you check the section?
Oh,
So
well, it's not coming up as.
Yeah,
it
I
should
was
be
going to
the
mention, I mean, you're able to freeform like
Yeah,
save in that
you can just
as well.
change it here directly. And then, okay, so, and then it comes from the actual, if I go into pricing and I price out a file, that's when it gets populated automatically. But you can freeform add fees here. You just first kind of, you just start typing essentially. So, whatever fee, and that's, $25. I can save the changes. So you should be able to manually add fees to the review fees page directly. But if you want to automatically trigger something by default under certain sort of conditions, you can go to the closing cost here, pick the ultimate, the sub fee, the fee type, which is just a foundational thing for our engine to use. And then you can change the display name accordingly. Thank you for the question though. It is something that is kind of gets overlooked every once in a while. And it's not that obvious that that functionality is available. Cool. When a new fee, okay, we got another question here from Bimal. When a new fee is added, does it get marked as APR automatically? That is a good question. That's actually one of the things that we do want to improve from a fees perspective, is just making that toggle between whether it's an APR fee or not more explicit. I believe though that is actually a gap in the current functionality. So if you do add one, I believe it gets added not as an APR fee, and there's no way to actually indicate that it is, unless you like select a fee that by default is an APR fee, and then just change the name of it, which is really more of a band-aid than anything. So maybe if I do,
I think, Cam, it should be go to settings again. Go to settings again before you.
why?
The configuration.
But if I'm adding a manual fee, there's no way to change what it is.
When you are adding a manual fee, yes, that is correct. So
that's what I was getting at. But within the fees configuration, you add a new fee from that perspective, you can dictate whether it is an APR fee or not.
Okay, so yeah,
so I go here to closing costs, I can go here and hit, or let me go back. If I add a fee, there is a little flag here for whether or not a fee is APR. So if you create a base fee for that, then you can utilize that, and whenever you run pricing, it comes at it. But there is that gap that we have for if you add a manual fee, just kind of that's not in the list already. There's no way to select whether it's an APR fee or not. But that is, as Harish mentioned, we do want to revamp what this page looks like ultimately. And that's one of the things that we do have planned, because really you guys aren't really, presumably you're not utilizing either of these columns at all right now. And it's really just us to make sure it's a little more streamlined, and adding things like selecting whether or not it's an APR fee is something that we have plans for. You know, who is being paid to, those types of things.
So, and in the coming release, you know, we'll have some calculators also released, so it will make it a little easier to manage the fees. We'll go over that in the next session, how you can really streamline some of the fee calculations as we for prepaids and escrows. So in the next session, we are going to cover that. So, but good question, Tamal, good point. So with that, I think we are at the tail end. So we appreciate everybody's time. I wish everybody a happy and safe Halloween. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to everyone next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.